Hey guys, Adam Savage here with a handheld opening shot. What? In my cave with a 1 day build. If you're like me, you probably have a few of these lithium ion cell batteries lying around. These are a very specific kind. I think are they 18650s? 3.7 volt lithium ion batteries. They come in a lot of different brands. Um, they come with a lot of different kinds of electronics, and I've ended up with a whole bunch of them. And my problem is that every time I end up with one, I end up with a charger like this. Now, the infrastructure for charging a whole bunch of batteries using one of these one at a time is like, I don't have that kind of time in my lifetime. So today's 1 day build is I'm going to build a gang charger for these guys so I can charge a bunch of them at once, and then they can always be I can always have a set of them charged. Yeah, basically it's like so I can keep a bunch of these charged at any given point. So this is actually a project that I started a long time ago, and that's why this exists. This is some MDF that I drilled out with a Forstner bit to make a holder for these batteries, with the idea that I'd have uncharged batteries on one side and charged batteries in the other. And as long as I didn't have too many batteries, I'd be able to tell which was which. So this is always going to be part of this build. And then out of all of these dumb chargers that I had, I ended up with four of these. These are fabulous. These are two at a time, and that means that I could make a gang charger that charges 8 batteries at once. But what am I going to do? Am I going to attach a power strip and connect all of these plugs? No. No, I am not. Because what I notice here when I look at the output of these little wall warts is it says input 100 to 240 volts. Output, sorry, is 12 volts, 1000 milliamps. So 1 amp at 12 volts. So that should mean that as long as I have more than 4 amps of output, I should be able to power all four of these. And lo, I do in this beautiful charger. This is a terrific 12-volt transformer. I found these. This puts out 8 amps. Bam! This is a big-ass transformer for me. When I first hooked up all the lights in my lit display cases with all the LEDs up the mullions, it was drawing like 6.5 amps across the whole thing. And I had a 6 amp transformer and I kept on frying them. So I eventually found these nice big fat ones. So this is twice as many amps as I need. That should be more than enough. And in fact, I did a test where, because this plug is the exact same polarity and size of the ones that go in these Tenergy ones, and it did charge a battery. So I know that this works. So the next step here is to figure out the form factor. How do these live with this, and what is the form of this battery charger management system? That's the next step. Once I figure that out, then I am going to solder the 4 leads together from these power supplies, so I have one plug that comes out of this transformer. So I have to basically arrange the transformer, the batteries, the chargers into something. And I'm thinking it's kind of like a little tote. I'm thinking a little tote that could store somewhere easily with a handle on it so you could move around the shop. I like mobility. That's where I'm going to start. I think charged on one side and uncharged on the other is better. Then I don't have to split it in half. That's okay. I think maybe the goal with this is that it's super thin, that it's super skinny. Or maybe it's like this. And the handle up the top. So it's just a yeah. So if that's the case, then that's the case. Then it sits here like this. Here. I wish I had more of these. And that lives there. That could be that. Yep. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. The whole thing's going to be very narrow and wide. 14 inches wide. Yeah, I'm making a handle on it. I always knew it's going to have a handle. So the handle, if this is 8 inches, right? 8 inches minus the bottom, yeah. And then the handle, you need to be able to pull a battery out. Okay, let's see here. Not the most beautiful drawing, but it'll get me there. So some cut lifts here. Sides are 2.75, and they go up to 8 inches, and then they start to taper. And the distance to the bottom of the handle is 3.5. So I figure out what my handle is, and I'll figure out. So there's times two of those. And then to join those would be 2 times 13.5 inches. 2 inches times 13.5 inches. Great, 2 of those. Then 1 at 13.5. 2 times 2.75. And that should get me, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces plus the handle. That should get me most of the way. Let's start cutting some parts. Great. So the actual height of this thing is 12 5/8. That's the first length I'm going to cut. 12 5/8. Dust retrieval. 2.75. And then you now 2 inches. And then all right, bottom. Lower sides. All right, I believe. So now it is, sides go like this and get captured like this. And I have probably somehow managed. Okay, it's like that. That's the current potential, right? So now I see. All right. This may be interesting. It is interesting. Okay, I have an interesting challenge, which is I haven't given myself enough room to seat this in here. It could sit like this, but I don't like that. I want it to sit like this. So I'm actually going to mill out. I'm going to use a milling machine to mill out, a spot for this. That's what I'm going to do. And that spot is going to be Oh, right. Yeah. That could go right up against there. It could be from there to there. Okay. Okay. I have chucked these two pieces of wood into my mill. They're on top of a piece of wood that's cut to the exact size of both of them together. I have clamped the ends with some can't twist clamps, and I'm about to use a medium-sized bit. I think this half-inch bit to take out about half of the width. Actually, I can double check that. Yeah, about half the width of each of these pieces. So let's see. I want to measure that. Loosen, loosen. That's as deep as I can go. I like that. Okay, so now we simply machine it to my marks. I'm going to give you a nice close-up of this. That went spectacularly. What I did was I cut both pieces as one so they would match each other and clamp them onto a board here with these can't twist clamps. And here they are, see? And so now they provide a little bit of extra room for the power supply to sit down there because I didn't measure carefully enough. I think it's time to clean these up on my Scotch-Brite wheel and assemble the first part of this stand. I said I was ready to do assembly on this, but I'm not. I still have to drill the holes for the handle and then cut the tapers for these. I need all that to be cut before I start screwing and gluing this thing together. So first things first, I'm going to use a Forstner bit to drill those two holes. Now, when you're drilling two pieces of wood together, often when you punch through the first piece of wood, you end up with this little disky disc at the bottom of the Forstner bit. That will inhibit you from cutting through to the second piece if you're not going fast enough. And so you need to clear it. Without moving the work, there we go. Drill the second half. Now it's time to mark and cut my tapers. All right, so the one thing that I need to do before I even start assembling is I actually need to cut down the handle, not just lengthwise, but I also chose a Forstner bit that was smaller than the diameter of the handle. I'm going to chuck this into the lathe and turn down the diameter of this so it slots through that hole and spins, and it's kind of like a little keeper. Need to adjust its overall length and then the width of each end. So this is .8. Great. So 50 thou. Just double check that measurement. Oh, I love it when that works. Tighten that up just a tad. Stick. Double check. Perfect. Love it. Let's make sure my length is right. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm going to cut this down to match this. All right, I think that's the final step for the initial assembly. First, we'll do, first things first, we'll do the bottom. Okay. Hey, no blow-throughs. Very pleased about that. Okay. Again, no blow-throughs. Getting better at this. All right, so now I'll put one side on. Oh, right, I have to match these because they're not perfectly chiral. One blow-through. Oh, two blow-throughs. Sorry about that. Ah, three. Come on. Four. What the hell? I'm going to do it like this to make sure that they're totally evened up with each other. And I forgot to put the handle in, but that's okay because I think I can still squeeze it in. Yes. All right. There we go. That is the basics. I have one blow through over here. Is that the case? Thought I did. Yeah, I do. Take care of that puppy. All right. Now, time to see how the rest of this is going to go together. We have the power supply, which goes there. I really messed up. I seriously messed up. This is what these videos are. This is just me missing small details and causing myself to have more work later on. What the hell? Come on. All right. That is a boring conundrum. I have no idea. Let me show you what the problem is. The problem is when I milled out the sides of this box to fit the power supply, I had two marks. And I accidentally went to the first mark, not the second mark. And therefore, my power supply is too big for the slot that I so carefully machined into my sides. And all that is because I didn't check before it left the mill. All right, here we go. think that might have actually worked. Baby, that is totally working. I'm really impressed with how well that worked. It's actually hard to even tell once I'm done sanding this. It's hard to even tell that I made a big dumb mistake. But we know the truth. Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, never underestimate what you can do with a little saw and a sharp chisel. I had some little chippy chips there, but that's fine. It's cost of business. Back to square one. Now you fit. Now you fit. See? Wee! Look at that. Oh, I'm super psyched. That was dumb. All right, so now I have this hole over here that sits on a 1/4 inch and fits my I probably should have cut this hole out before, but I can cut it out later. Good, that's not a blow through. And that comes down just a tiny bit to be square. Am I right? That's it. Let's get this guy going. Good. 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 Awesome. Now we have that, and we have space for all the batteries, including the charged ones. That's great. It's all right, charged and uncharged on one side. I like that. And this. So if this sits in here, and these sit out there. Yeah, you can still pull that down. Yep. Yep. And yep. Okay. In my experience, you don't need much more hold down than a couple of pieces of this on a nice clean piece of wood. It is very, very strong, very lovely and strong, but I can add some epoxy in there if I need to. So we're going to put this like this. Yes, yeah, that's neat. Okay. So now I've put 2 nails in, and I'm going to mark for where the other nails go, and that is going to be like about like that. Yeah, that's there, and the nails are going to go in this line. this. If my math is correct, when I put one here, it should capture. And it did. And it's good. And freedom. Tastes of reality. Okay, do the same thing on the other side. Just to say, that's already there. So, that. And my nails go here. So here we go. A couple blow-throughs. This is the other thing that I really like about a 22 gauge nailer is that blow-throughs are exceedingly easy to manage. Like, it's not that hard to pull the nails out where you accidentally drove them past the where you wanted to. Yeah. There we are, ladies and germs. We have the rudiments of a, wait a second. There it is. We have the rudiments. Come on. Oh, really? Of a portable battery charging station. So the charging port comes out here. You live there. Yep. And then this gets cut and wired. These guys all live in here, and we'll have charged and uncharged. Oh my God, this is great. I've been wanting to do this for so long. I can't even tell you. Amazing. Okay, so there it is. Yeah. This isn't a final show and tell. I'm actually going to do some wiring, but the batteries can all live in here, 8 at a time. See how fast that is? See how easy? You got green lights that you can see on everything. I'll wire up 4 things and right through there into the power supply. That's the next step. All right. Now that the basic form factor of my lithium-ion charger tote is mostly complete, it's time to wire it up. It's time to wire up these 4 bad boys to this guy. And I am not going to do a whole heat shrink and soldering iron thing. I'm going to do this all with wire lugs, with wire nuts. And it's because I have a particular love for wire nuts. I think that they are fabulous. I think everyone should have a bunch of them in their kit. And I tend to do my sample constructions with wire nuts instead of clip leads. It's just the way that I think. So a wire nut, let me grab out my collection of them. A wire nut, I'm going to pull out a large one. You've seen these. There you go. There's a wire nut. And inside is a little tapered spring. And when you twist that over 2 ends of wire, it actually pulls them together. And for little wiring, they make these little tiny lugs, these little tiny wire nuts. I really like them. Suffice to say, these little wire nuts are awesome, and that's how I'm going to assemble this guy right now. So first, I'm going to sever the connection to the plug. I'm going to give myself always give yourself a little more wire than you might think you need, because it's easy to take away. It's really hard to add. I can't stress that enough. It's easy to take away. It's really hard to add. There we go. Nice. With wire nuts, you want to have a little more exposed wire than you normally would for like tinning and soldering. Um, I like to have like 3/8 to a half of an inch for wire nuts. Oh, right. And then there's my 4 chargers. Right. Here you guys go. So I need these wires to all come back. So I need to cut them, but I also don't want to ruin these wall warts. I have a spot for storing these, and I keep them all safe because you never know. I use them all the time. Yeah. Okay. So I think the longest distance anyone is going to travel is going to be here to here to here to there. So let's do that. Here's how impatient I am. I just want to cut them all at once. There we go. Bingo. Now these go into my storage. And then we need to know which is which. And usually wires are right. Okay, so that's a negative. That looks like it says it's a negative. So let's just double check. Yeah. One of on any 2-strand wire, there's almost always going to be some delineator between the 2 wires. It's often very low key, so you don't necessarily see it. On lamp cord for your house, sometimes one side is ribbed and the other is not. For electrical cords, sometimes there's a very faint marking on one of the 2 wires. So I'm just going to separate these out and do a little continuity test. Yep, positive is in the center. So, there. All right. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to plug in all 4 of these wires. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to route them all out through this little hole right here. So I have these little wire keepers, which are actually, which are actually just for holding onto wires and keeping them nicely organized. Oh, sweet business. Let's get another one in there. One. 2. 3. A 3. A 4. 4. There we go. And you're going to see this, how much I love the wire nuts, because this whole wiring job will be done in about 4 minutes. It's so fast to just get a proof of concept out. So there's negative, 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 and negative. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yep. I'm going to hook that up to negative. And screw a little wire nut on there. Low, those are connected. Now we'll do the 4 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I like to do before I do a twisty pie is I get all my wires with their bare necks lined up like that. And then I'll do a twisty poo. Yep, and then I'll bring the other one in and I'll do a twisty on that. It's hard to do for camera, I'm noticing. All right, so then bring in a wire nut. And there you have it. There's one other thing I like to do with this kind of wiring, which is to do a little bit of strain relief so that things don't pull out. So I'm just going to do that. So no amount of moving and racking is going to alter this persuasion. But now it's time. It is time to plug this guy in. Okay, so the initial plugging in I did not release any mysterious blue smoke, which everybody knows is the worst thing you can do to electronics. You don't want to release the mysterious blue smoke. If you do, all bets are off. Is my camera all cattywampus? No, let's do this. There. That's a little better. Not an episode of Batman. So let us see if I put this in. Yep, we got a charge. Yep, we got a charge. Oh, baby. We are charging 8 at the same time. I am so psyched. Look at that. There you go. That is a one-day build, an added bit of functionality that I've been wanting to add to my shop for literally the better part of a couple of years. I'm glad to have gotten around to it. Thank you guys for joining me. Anything you want to know about in this, put your questions in the comments below, and I may do some tooltip videos about stuff that I haven't mentioned before. See you next time. I almost forgot. The labeling. I forgot. We'll do uncharged and charged. So this is the, come on. Okay. It's just not a thing unless it has a label.